He was born into one of the wealthiest families in Saudi Arabia, a quiet religious young man from a construction empire. But the world would come to know him not for buildings, but for destruction. This is the story of Osama bin Laden. His path took a dramatic turn during the Soviet-Afghan War in the 1980s. He traveled to Afghanistan not as a fighter initially, but as a financier and organizer, using his family's immense wealth and connections to support the Mujahideen against the Soviet forces. It was in the mountains and battlefields of Afghanistan that his ideas began to harden. He saw the conflict through a stark religious lens, believing it was a divine victory against a superpower. This experience transformed him from a supporter into a central figure. After the Soviets withdrew, he didn't simply return to his old life. He saw a new global struggle. He co-founded Al-Qaeda, or the Base, a network designed to carry on this fight on a worldwide scale. His ideology became more extreme, viewing the United States and its Western allies as the primary enemies of his vision for the Islamic world. For years, the group operated in the shadows, building its strength and carrying out smaller-scale attacks. Then came September 11, 2001. The coordinated attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon were an act of unprecedented scale that shocked the world and instantly made bin Laden its most wanted man. The United States launched the war on terror, and the hunt for Osama bin Laden began. He became a ghost, releasing audio and video messages from undisclosed locations while constantly on the move, evading the most sophisticated intelligence operations on the planet. For nearly a decade, he was a symbol of defiance to his followers and a symbol of evil to his enemies. The manhunt stretched across continents, focusing on the rugged border region between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Finally, a breakthrough. A dedicated team of intelligence analysts traced a trusted courier to a large, fortified compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. The compound was unusual. It had no internet or phone lines, and its residents burned their trash. It seemed designed to hide someone important. On May 2, 2011, under the cover of darkness, U.S. Navy SEALs raided the compound. The operation was swift and intense. Inside, they found and killed Osama bin Laden to prevent his grave from becoming a shrine for his followers. His body was buried at sea. The death of bin Laden was a major symbolic victory, but the ideology he championed didn't die with him. The Al-Qaeda network had already begun to fracture and metastasize, giving rise to new groups and inspiring lone actors. His story serves as a stark reminder of how a single individual's journey can intersect with global events, leading to consequences that ripple across the world for decades. Let's talk about the rise and fall of Al Capone, the man who basically ran Chicago in the Roaring '20s. Picture this. It's the 1920s, and America has just banned alcohol. They called it prohibition. But did people stop drinking? Not a chance. This created a massive illegal gold rush, and Al Capone was right there, ready to cash in. He started small, just another street tough, but he was smart, ruthless, and a brilliant organizer. He built an empire from the ground up, controlling the flow of illegal booze, underground gambling dens, and all sorts of other shady businesses. Capone's operation was a well-oiled machine. He had politicians and police officers in his pocket, making him feel untouchable. To the public, he wasn't just a criminal, he was a celebrity. He'd show up at baseball games, hand out money to the poor, and give interviews to reporters. He carefully crafted this image of a respectable businessman, a sort of Robin Hood figure. But behind the friendly smile and fancy suits, there was a dark reality. His gang didn't hesitate to use extreme violence to crush their rivals, like in the infamous St. Valentine's Day massacre. For years, law enforcement tried to pin something on him, but witnesses were too scared to talk. Capone seemed invincible. So, the federal government, led by agents like Elliot Ness, decided to switch tactics. If they couldn't get him for murder or bootlegging, they'd get him for something else. They started digging into his finances, or rather, his lack of them on paper. Capone was making millions, but he wasn't paying a dime in income tax, and that was his big mistake. In 1931, the feds finally got him. Not for the bloody crimes everyone knew he committed, but for tax evasion. It sounds almost anticlimactic, right? The most feared gangster in America, taken down by accountants, he was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison, ending up in the notorious Alcatraz. Behind bars, his power vanished almost overnight. His criminal empire crumbled without him at the helm. His health failed dramatically. and when he was finally released, he was a shadow of his former self. He spent his last few years in seclusion in Florida, a forgotten king whose reign of terror had ended with the stroke of a pen. It's a wild story about power, crime, and how even the most untouchable figures can have a fatal flaw. If you enjoyed this dive into history, make sure to like and subscribe for more. When you think of a pirate, what's the first image that comes to mind? A fearsome captain with a long, dark beard, smoke curling from under his hat, brandishing a cutlass. Well, you're probably picturing one man, Blackbeard. But the real story of the man named Edward Teach is even more fascinating than the legend. Before he was the terror of the seas, Teach was a sailor, likely even a privateer for the British during wartime. But when the war ended, so did the legitimate work for skilled seamen like him. So, what did he do? He turned to piracy. And he wasn't just good at it, he was a master of marketing. Blackbeard understood that fear was a more powerful weapon than any cannon. He cultivated a terrifying image. He was a big guy, but he made himself look even more demonic by weaving hemp cords, basically slow-burning fuses, into his massive black beard and hair. He'd light them before a battle, so he'd approach enemy ships wreathed in smoke, looking like a demon straight from hell. Most crews surrendered without a fight. Who would want to challenge that? His flagship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, was a captured French vessel that he packed with 40 cannons. With this floating fortress, he blockaded the port of Charleston, South Carolina, holding the entire city hostage until they gave him a chest of medical supplies. It was an incredibly bold move that cemented his legendary status. He wasn't just a random raider, he was a strategic commander. But like all pirate stories, this one has a dramatic end. In November 1718, the governor of Virginia sent 2 naval sloops to hunt him down. They cornered Blackbeard and his remaining crew off the coast of North Carolina. The battle was brutal and personal. Blackbeard fought like a cornered lion, but he was finally overwhelmed and killed. Reports say he suffered 5 gunshot wounds and over 20 sword cuts before he fell. The authorities put his head on the bowsprit of their ship to prove to everyone that the great Blackbeard was truly gone. So, what about his famous buried treasure? Well, here's the anticlimax. No major treasure hoard has ever been found. Historians believe he likely spent his loot as fast as he got it, funding his operations and living the pirate life. Blackbeard's real treasure wasn't gold or jewels. It was the powerful, enduring image of the pirate captain he created, an image that has captivated us for over 300 years. His legacy is the very definition of a pirate that we still know and love today. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories. Ted Bundy, to most people, he was just a regular guy, smart, good-looking, and incredibly charming. But behind that friendly smile was a dark secret. During the 1970s, Bundy became one of America's most infamous serial killers, responsible for the brutal murders of at least 30 young women, though the true number might be even higher. What made his case so terrifying and complex was how he operated. His crimes weren't confined to one city or state. They spanned across Washington, Oregon, Utah, Colorado, and even Florida. This made it incredibly difficult for law enforcement back then. Police departments in different states weren't communicating as effectively as they do today. So, connecting the dots between these seemingly random disappearances was a huge challenge. For a long time, no one realized they were all linked to one person. Bundy was a master of manipulation. He used his charm to gain the trust of his victims and the public. He would often fake an injury, wearing a cast or using crutches to appear harmless and ask for help. This disarming tactic allowed him to lure unsuspecting women to his car, even after he was identified as a suspect. His clean-cut appearance and confident demeanor made it hard for some people to believe he could be a monster. He played the part of the wronged law student so well that he managed to delay his capture and sow doubt. His story took an even more dramatic turn when he was finally arrested. He didn't just stay in jail, he escaped not once, but twice. The first time was a daring leap from a courthouse library window in Aspen, Colorado. After being recaptured, he escaped again from a jail in Glenwood Springs by sawing a hole in his cell ceiling. For weeks he was on the run, a fugitive who continued his deadly spree in Florida before he was finally caught for good. The trial that followed was a media sensation. It was one of the first to be nationally televised, and the world watched, captivated and horrified. Bundy, who had some legal training, even acted as his own defense attorney at times. creating a bizarre and chilling courtroom spectacle. What ultimately sealed his fate was forensic science. A key piece of evidence was a bite mark left on one of his victims, which forensic odontologists matched directly to Bundy's teeth. This was groundbreaking at the time and proved his guilt beyond a shadow of a doubt. In 1989, Ted Bundy was executed in Florida. His case left a lasting impact on the justice system and public consciousness. It highlighted the need for better interstate police cooperation and brought the grim reality of serial offenders into the national spotlight. The story of Ted Bundy is a chilling reminder that evil can wear a very ordinary, even charming disguise. Thanks for watching, and be sure to follow for more deep dives into history's most compelling stories. Let's rewind to the 1970s, a turbulent time in Colombia, and talk about a name that echoes through modern history: Pablo Escobar. From the city of Medellin, he built an illegal business empire that was unlike anything the world had ever seen. This wasn't just a small-time operation. It grew into a massive network that fundamentally shook the foundations of an entire nation. Imagine an organization so powerful it could challenge the government itself. Escobar's influence seeped into every corner of Colombian society. The economy, politics, and especially public safety were all dramatically affected by his activities. For ordinary people, life became unpredictable as violence surged. The Colombian government, faced with this unprecedented challenge, knew it had to act decisively to restore order and enforce the country's laws. This began a long, difficult struggle to dismantle the vast illegal operations that had taken root. The battle against Escobar's network became one of the most intense and defining chapters in Colombia's recent history. It was a period of immense pressure and sacrifice for the national security forces and the Colombian people. Finally, in December 1993, after a relentless manhunt, Escobar's era came to a definitive end. His story didn't end there, though. It became a crucial case study, examined in documentaries and history classes around the world. Why do we still talk about him today? Because his story is a powerful lesson. It shows how illegal enterprises can deeply destabilize a country, creating long-term consequences that take generations to heal. It serves as a stark reminder of the devastating impact of organized crime and highlights the absolute necessity of having strong, just institutions to protect society. It's a complex piece of history that continues to teach us about power, law, and resilience. Thanks for watching, and if you found this interesting, don't forget to subscribe for more historical deep dives.